Aloha, 안녕, 안녕하세요. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. You can go to live in Korea, but you cannot become a Korean man. You can go to live in Germany or Turkey or Japan, but you cannot become a German, a Turk, or Japanese. But anyone from any corner of the earth can come to live in America and become an American. Welcome back to A Nation of Immigrants, a new talk show program featuring the lives of immigrants, knowledge, diversity, and inclusion, created by Think Tank Hawaii and the Kingsfield Law Office. We invite renowned immigrants to discuss their life stories, immigration adventures, and contributions to cultural diversity. Today's guest is our very good friend, Wooj Byun. Wooj, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You are a Minnesota-based attorney, community leader, and a Rotarian, and you studied law in Korea and the United States. Since you graduated from the University of Minnesota Law School in 1993, you have practiced law in Minnesota. You were born in Korea, and you have lived and worked in Seoul, Hong Kong, and Minneapolis, and Edina. You served as an advisor to the president of South Korea on the subject of reunification of the two Koreas. You also served as the president of the University of Minnesota as the chair of Asian Advisory Committee. You were the chairperson of the Asian Pacific Cultural Center during the Jesse Ventura administration in the great state of Minnesota. You served as the president of Minnesota Korean Association and a board member of Weisman Art Museum in the university for 2 terms. You served as president of Edina Rotary Club from 2011 to 2012. You served as District 5950's legal counsel from 2014 through 2016. In 2014, you published a very important book, My Rotary Journey. I'm so impressed by your resume, Wooj, and I'm so happy to have you as our distinguished guest to talk about your journey, not only your Rotary journey, but your adventure in immigration law and your work experience in South Korea and the United States. Thank you again for coming to the show.
Well, thank you for the generous introduction.
Thank you, Wooj. And we have known each other for a while. And the reason is both of our Asian American attorneys practicing law in the state of Minnesota. And you graciously invited me to your club, your office, and I reviewed some of the artwork you collected, fantastic artworks, and also had an opportunity to sit in your Rotary Club gathering and launch and learn event. And please tell us, our audience, more about yourself. We know you were born in Korea, you're first generation Asian American. And how did you come to the United States in the first place? And how did you settle in the state of Minnesota?
I came to the United States on August 15th, 1990.
Wow.
When I was young, I always wanted to study in the United States, and I always wanted to become an international lawyer. Back in 1989, while I was working in Hong Kong, I bumped into a gentleman called Bill Mondale, who highly recommended that I apply to University of Minnesota, which I did. And it turned out to be one of the best schools which accepted me for the law school. So that's how I ended up coming to the University of Minnesota Law School to study. And I never thought I would settle in Minnesota. But during law school, I met my wife, who is originally from New York. But we decided to give Minnesota a try, and we both liked it. So that's how I ended up settling in the state of Minnesota.
Thank you so much. So you were born in Korea. How many years you spent in Korea before came to the United States?
Okay, I was born in Korea. Then when I was 25 years old, I had a chance to work in Hong Kong. So I worked in Hong Kong for like 1 year and a half or something like that. And then I came to the United States when I turned 26 years old.
Mm. So that's I came to the States when I was 28 years old. So our experience were somehow similar. And I
Yes.
spent I didn't have chance to work in Hong Kong or outside my hometown Beijing before I came to the United States. So as you can imagine, it was quite a cultural shock when I first transferred from Beijing, China to Champaign, Urbana, Illinois, University of Illinois. But your experience, I can relate to a certain degree, and so Seoul was cold. I would say Seoul, Beijing, they were not as cold as Minnesota, but it was quite cold. But I could imagine the culture was very, very different between Seoul, Korea, and in Minnesota. So what's your first impression when you began to study law at Mondale Hall and later began to practice law in the state?
My experience when I first came to Minnesota was that it was a bitterly cold during winter time. South Korea could be cold, but not as much as in Minnesota. But then I quickly realized that Minnesota people are very kind, and because of the 4 distinct seasons, people enjoy each season, and because of the long, cold winter, people appreciate spring and summer quite a bit. So the weather at the beginning was a shock for me, but then gradually I began to associate with kind Minnesotans. So I actually began to enjoy the state of Minnesota because of the nice people.
I totally agree. And Minnesota nice, this famous phrase, I take it positively. For many people like us, like you and me, we come to this state and we stay. And for many native Minnesotans, they left their hometown, they study or work in another state, but ultimately they come back. So this is quite telling something about this state. Is very inclusive, and it's also, but at the same time, very open-minded. Tell us a little bit about your law practice. I know you are very a successful lawyer and very engaged in the community service. You're considered a leader of the Asian American community. And tell us what your days look like, and generally, what do you do?
I focus on the areas of immigration law and also business transaction. So I often represent clients from overseas who bring either capital or job opportunities for U.S. citizens by starting a business. So I tend to combine the business transaction and the immigration, and a lot of times these foreigners bring money to invest in the United States. Other than my law practice, I try to get involved in the community. I spend a lot of time with the Rotary Club, or if there is any good cause which needs my help, then I'll be more than happy to get involved.
Thank you very much. That sounds fantastic. Uh, for the, I understand that in the United States, the immigration law is very complex. I myself practice immigration law as well, and there are some investors looking for immigration benefit when they invest in the United States, which is welcomed by the U.S. government. And I just think I think our government is fantastic. They welcome foreign investors to invest in this country and create job opportunities for U.S. citizens. Then you can do your business as long as you respect our rule of law and you follow the business norms. Do you have a lot of uh, Asian, investor clients, or most of them Korean or Chinese, or from all over different parts of the world?
I cannot tell you off the top of my head. However, I would tell you that in my practice of close to 30 years, probably half of them come from Asia. But then I had clients from Europe, Africa, Canada too, many other countries and continents too.
That's great because there is a very long wait for Asian applicants,
Yes,
particularly Chinese and Indian.
Indians, yes.
Yeah, Indian and Chinese, they wait, 7, 8, 10 years is
Yes.
normal. But for the investors and potential immigrants from other parts of the world, they don't
Yes.
need that long. My favorite quote about immigration is when you look at a country and you look at how many people want to get in and how many people want to get out. And there are almost always a very long line in front of the U.S. Embassy and consulates all over the world.
Yes.
But very few Americans probably want to get out of here and move in Canada even. But anyway, let's move to a very important subject. I know deeply personal to me. That's Rotary Club. Thank you again for inviting me to Edina Rotary Club. I thoroughly enjoyed the Launch and Learn event, and I had you graciously introduced me and to many of your friends at Rotary Club. I am deeply impressed by the caliber and the atmosphere of the Rotary Club. And my impression before uh, you invited me to the club event was it is one of the social network clubs. But when I was there, sitting there, when I listened to your conversation, I feel something different. I feel this club is different from other club, but I couldn't articulate it because I spent so little time there. Could you please tell us what make Rotary Club distinguishable from other clubs, and why did you join it, and what do you do at the club?
Okay. Rotary was founded around 1905, so more than 100 years ago, by a lawyer named Paul Harris in Chicago. Rotary is different from other social gatherings such as Kiwanis Club, JC Club, Toastmasters Club, in the sense that Rotary members have to get together once a week, no matter what. It is required once a week. And then we are a group of business leaders around the world. There are 1.3 million members around the world, and we're trying to help people in need. It could be in our own backyard. It could be in another continent. We raise money. We send the people, manpower, equipment to help those people. And the Rotary also created a scholarship. It's called Rotary International Ambassadorial Scholarship, which was created in 1946. It started in a very humble way. They recruited only 10 students that year. However, the next 60 years saw the scholarship growing to the single largest scholarship fund around the world by benefiting over 40,000 scholars. I am one of the humble recipients of that particular scholarship. So when I first came to the University of Minnesota to study, I received Rotary International Ambassadorial Scholarship. So that's why I joined the Rotary. I thought maybe I should pay for future scholars to pay back to Rotary. That's why I joined the Rotary. Rotary is different from other organizations in the sense also that it tends to fight the biggest problem mankind is faced with. For example, polio has been a big problem. Rotarians in the past 30 years raised $2 billion. And
Wow.
Bill Gates was so impressed by Rotary's efforts. In the year 2011, Bill Gates pledged and actually donated $550 million from his foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So with the collaboration between Bill Gates Foundation and the Rotary Foundation, we could make it possible for India to become polio-free in the year 2012. So Rotary is a very remarkable international organization in that regard.
It is remarkable. Remarkable. Thank you so much for sharing. And I definitely will look more into the Rotary Club history. And when you talk about the biggest challenges for mankind, and I'm eager to hear you thoughts because you are different lawyer, and the reason I feel I like to talk to you and get your thoughts on many different topics is you are a very artistic and humanistic lawyer, and you are not aggressive. You are very humble, and I feel there is some spiritual background. I don't inquiry about your religious background, but I do have this strong feeling that you care something. You care about humanity, and you care about your intellectualism deeply. And so, from your perspective, a Rotarian and a spiritual intellectual, what do you think is the biggest challenge for all of us today?
Today, we have many problems. As you said, people are evolving, trying to not to lag behind all the technology advancing far ahead of us, right? So, for example, young folks use their cell phone for everything. If they lose their cell phone, they almost lose their life.
Yes.
So I think we really have to restore humanity to mankind. That I think is one of the biggest challenges we are faced with today. AI is at an accelerated speed replacing human jobs. So pretty soon, maybe we lawyers may have no job, right? But I think we still will need lawyers who can listen to people, comfort them at a very human level, and things like that. Rotary actually was started by a lawyer, and there are many lawyers who joined the Rotary. And one thing I think we can borrow from Rotary is that Rotary's motto is service above self. When I became a lawyer, my service usually came my brain, and I provide a service and I get paid. But after associating with hundreds of wonderful people called Rotarians, I noticed that there is another kind of service called service above self. You provide a service not from your brain, you provide a service from your heart, and you don't ask for anything in return. And I was really shocked to find that kind of a new service. And I gradually let the source of my service gravitate from my brain to my heart. And one time I tried to analyze what is the difference. I noticed our heart, unlike our brain, doesn't calculate. It feels the pain of other people. So when you feel the pain of other people, then you develop the love for humanity, which can develop service above self. So that transformation from feeling the pain of other people, developing love for humanity, which triggers service above self, would be compared to something like an oyster painfully developing a beautiful pearl in its soft flesh. That expression may have come from Mother Teresa. But anyway, service above self became the motto of Rotary Club. And in restoring humanity, we should all feel the pain of other people around the world. It could be somebody in our own backyard or in another country like Ukraine or Turkey. There is a earthquake, right?
Yes.
So I think it's important for us to feel the pain of other people. Then we can restore humanity.
Well, so well said, Uji. I concur with you wholeheartedly. And then there are so many wonderful points I want to comment on. And what you just said warrant a separate episode for us to discuss further. But we don't have that much time. But I do want to quickly respond. First of all, you mentioned that the biggest challenge for humanity appears to be technology and or the gap or the disruption will bring up by the technology. I totally agree with you. And it could be AI, could be automation, and so for the AI, and there are so many ramifications of the technology advancement and the gap between the have and the have-nots. So if the AI is controlled by authoritarian, it could be our ever powerful tool to manipulate, control, and suppress people. But
Yes.
if can be used by innovative people, it could do tremendous good for humankind.
Mhm.
Second point I want to quickly respond is you talk about empathy. And you are one of the lawyers I really like because you possess a tremendous ability of empathy. You empathize with colleagues, you empathize with community members, and you empathize with your clients. That I see is something AI will not be able to replace. And in the near future or in the long future, because AI at the end of the day is it's a tool of learning, keep learning and become more sophisticated. By the end of the day, it doesn't have a soul. And in order to empathize, in order to love, and in order to feel other people's pain and suffering, you need a soul, and you can relate to other soul. So for in this regard, I thank you again for bringing this up. Much appreciated. And we are running a little bit out of we have like 5 6 minutes left, but there are some questions that I always ask, our intellectual guest, particularly you. You are well read. I visited your office, I saw your book collection, art collection, and you are author yourself. You author a book, My Rotary Club, My Rotary Journey, and I'm reading it. It's just fantastic. And as a history lover, and you were born in Korea, you will receive a full and complete traditional education in South Korea. And tell us about your favorite historical periods in Korea. And the reason I'm asking that is every evening, I confess to you, every evening after dinner, I turn on Wiki or Netflix and I watch a Korean historical drama. So I'm a big fan of Korea
Okay.
history. And tell
Yeah.
us, what is there any favorite Korean dynasty you like? If time travel permits, you can travel back in history, and which time you want to
Sure.
go back there and live there.
Yeah, sure. If I could, there was a dynasty called the Shilla dynasty around
Oh yeah.
1,000 years ago. I want to go back to that time, if time machine allows me to. And the reason is because Shilla was in active trade relationship with the Tang dynasty of China,
Oh yes.
and
Yes.
it had relationships with India too. And it imported Buddhism from those two countries. And
True.
Shilla ended up reunifying the whole Korea. And then also, Sheila had a couple of queens in history too,
Yes.
which makes me believe that they achieved quite a bit of a gender equality over 1,000 years ago. So it is a fascinating dynasty. So if I had an opportunity to visit it, I'll be very happy to visit the Shilla dynasty.
Fantastic answer, and I agree. And it's one of my Korean dynasties as well. And probably I at least we can watch some historical dramas about Joseon Dynasty.
Yes.
Anyway, you were born there. I assume you still have family members and friends in South Korea. And when was your last time in Korea, in Seoul?
Yeah, I'm ashamed to admit that I didn't visit Korea for almost 3, 4 years because of COVID.
Yeah,
This year, I will definitely have to visit my parents and 3 siblings.
that's great. And I flew to Seoul last month, and on my way to Beijing, China.
Mhm.
And because we have a direct flight from Minneapolis to Seoul, I
Yes.
thoroughly enjoying that flight. That
Yes.
was just fantastic.
Mhm.
And I will not be able to catch a direct flight from Seoul to Beijing the
Mhm.
next day or the same day, but I would thoroughly enjoy to spend a few days in Seoul
Mhm.
on my next trip.
Okay.
Last question, and is there again, the topic is time travel. If your time travel permits, you are able to travel back to your 30 years ago and when you're in your 20s. And what advice would you to give yourself, a younger you? Would you?
Yeah, if I could give an advice to myself when I was in 20s, I would say don't worry too much about the world and travel more. That way, you can discover how diverse, how big the world is. You can broaden your cultural and geographical horizons.
That's great advice. So I remember one of my college professors advised me that, you know, the more you travel more, same advice, the more you travel, the more you find people are so similar.
Mhm.
Even the language, culture, food, uh, costumes, everything different. But actually, the more you travel, the more you find people are the same.
Mhm.
And finally, we have just 30 minutes, 30 seconds left. Is there any? You are an avid reader as well. Not only you're author, but you are a good book reader. Any particular book or TV movie you enjoy at the moment you want to share with our audience?
Yes, I highly recommend Pachinko. It
Oh
is a
yeah.
book turned into a movie. It shows how resilient Korean people are, generation after generation. There is another book I highly recommend. It's called The Next 100 Years, written by George Friedman. It talks
Oh,
about
okay.
possibility of countries like Turkey to become a superpower in the future because it is still, as an Islamic country, it's still pro-America.
Wonderful suggestions. So the book and TV show Pakinko, I watched the TV show. It's just absolutely stunning,
Yes.
and it's epic. And I look forward to read the book.
Okay.
And also, you recommended the book Next 100 Years. I look forward to get a copy and read it. Thank you again, Uji,
Thank
to
you.
be our distinguished guest. And your thoughts are so inspiring. And I gonna to need some time to digest and then to read the books you recommend and watch the TV shows you recommend. Thank you again. It's a great honor to have you.
Thank you so much for watching Think Tech Hawaii. If you like what we do, please like us and click the subscribe button on YouTube and the follow button on Vimeo. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and donate to us at thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo.